Hey y'all! Whilst my garden is inspired by my love of all things Jane Austen, the reality is that I live in Oklahoma Zone 7B. And one of the things that happens in Oklahoma, this. So last night we had a very strong thunderstorm roll through. Nothing dangerous, as it were. It wasn't a tornado or whatnot. It was just like some strong winds. And because the grounds have quite a bit of trees, you invariably have a little bit of tree damage. And so this particular tree outside my library had a little brokeny bit there. It has a broken bit there. Fortunately, it didn't land on anything. It's that. But also, himself is home. He's on vacation this week. So we will get this addressed. So we're not going to let this little setback stop us from filming our garden tour in costume. We did have 1.5 inches of rain last night, so I have something that a Jane Austen heroine would have loved to have back in the day. Wellies and gym socks. It's not particularly difficult to wear a Jane Austen costume. They're fairly comfortable. I mean, you have a little bit of fitted here, but for the rest, they're flowy and they're cool and they're comfortable. Your hair doesn't require a lot of work with that. You do a little bun and you let a little bit drift down here by your face, and that's fairly simple. Probably the most complicated thing are the gloves, because when you're trying to turn your camera on and off on your phone, they don't pick up with the gloves, so you're constantly taking them off. But one thing that translates very well from Jane Austen's period to today in the garden, that is a hanky. Allergy season in Oklahoma, and you're constantly dabbing your eyes. This is much more delicate than the rough paper of a tissue. Also, if you leave tissues in your pocket and you forget and you run them through the washer and the dryer, you often end up with lint on everything. So no, if that happens, if you forget in your pocket, these wash just fine. So yes, we shall. As another favorite author of ours, Gail Carriger, we will be a young lady of quality, and we will stuff our hanky in our décolletage. And if you don't get that, go read Miss Gail Carriger's Finishing School series. It's awesome. So yeah, we're going to do a garden tour. Hey, little guy. How's it going? So here in the front of the house, I'm aiming for a more traditional, calm, formal look. I don't want plants that are just going to go crazy and have a ton of upkeep. I want a classic look here at the front of the house. Now, the back border, yes, please go wild back there. But up here, in the entryway, in the front flower beds, we want things to be a bit calmer. So this particular section here, off the side of the porch, this side is much more shady than that side down there. And so we haven't done a ton here. The Nandinas were here. You can tell we had a storm last night. The Nandinas were here. The contorted filbert was here. The azalea was here. And so there was a lot of good structure and bones here. But there wasn't a lot of color. So we've tried to add things in. Once again, more storm. So this particular daylily is called Mini Penny. It is a much smaller daylily. And so it has bloomed really well for me. We've added in some irises, and back here we've added in, for a bit of summer color, some classic red begonias. And because I don't want to be continually taking off my gloves to hit the camera button, we're just going to leave this one off. Pretend it's on. So here we have our hellebores that we added in this early spring. Honey Hill Joy, I believe, is the variety for these. And then we have the red impatiens that are they're filling in, and eventually they will cover this whole structure. And then back here, this is our oak leaf hydrangea. It's starting to have some blooms, and this was a gift from my garden club, so I absolutely love it. So this section is filling in nicely. I'm really happy with the look of it. I like the red against the brick and the green flowers of the hellebores. And so this section is not a lot to do in this area, except for this. We need to do something. As I say, himself will take care of this. He will clean it up. He will get out all the chainsaws and make it look like nothing ever happened. This is the front section of the flower bed that you may remember from last week's episode when I was up here mulching, and the blue salvia continues. This is just a stunner of a salvia. So beautiful. Continues to do well. And then, constantly weeding. No, you cannot be in my flower bed. Oh, no. It looks like we had a bit of wind damage on the zinnias here, which is not a problem. They kind of go crazy anyway. So we will just trim those off and take the flowers indoor for bouquets. And then follow me over this way. Come, let us go this way. Oh. So this is the hardy hibiscus that I planted last week, and look at that. We've had our first bloom. It's starting to fade because these blooms only last for one day, but there are a ton more coming on. In fact, there's one right there. I think that will be blooming tomorrow. So I will get a picture to add in here. And we do have a bit of yellow leaves, which we just pluck those off. That's kind of a thing that this plant does. You will have little bits of it, and it's no big deal. You just pluck them off or they'll fall off and chunk them out there for the mower. But yeah, I think this is going to be really pretty here. Oh, gorgeous. And our pine tree is looking lovely. And then just starting to bloom, boomerang lilac. I love lilacs. I was out here working and I was like, what smells so wonderful? And then I realized the boomerang lilac is about to bloom, as boomerang lilacs do. So this gives some great purple color. And then we also have a zinnia back in there that's starting. So yes, I'm really happy with how this bed is looking right now. And one of my favorite things, classic carmine dahlia. These are those dahlias that I was adding from Proven Winners that I was adding to the garden. That they're not traditional dahlias that bloom late in the season. These are ones that bloom all through summer, and they're more of a bush. But it was my Flower Friday a few weeks ago, the first bloom. That is a stunner. Absolutely love it. And we have it next to Proven Winners Rockin' Purple Salvia. Also lovely, lovely. And then we have been slowly, these rocks here, I continually have to weed them, and they have like little pockets where stuff will get down in. So I've been trying to add sedums to the little spots, and they're finally coming on. So I really like that. These daylilies are about done. There's like one more over there that looks like it's blooming. And yes, we lost some to the deer. And yeah, just looking good. Let's continue on down this way. And now we are up to the corner of the front flower bed. This is the driveway where we pull into the garage. So this is something that I see a lot. And something is blooming that I'm super excited about. This is another one of those Proven Winner dahlias that are more of a summer blooming dahlia rather than an autumn dahlia. It's the I think it's vibrant violet. Oh, but it's gorgeous. And then Rockin' Fuchsia Salvia and Rocking Purple Salvia. So this spot is looking really good. Now, these aren't looking much right now, but these are hot-blooded red lantana. I order them every year from Burpee. Occasionally, I will find them locally, but not reliably, so I always order some. And they're small, but through the heat of summer, they will Hello, himself. We're doing a garden tour. So these don't look like much, but through the heat of summer, they will continue to bloom and they will get big and beautiful. They're very reliable when it comes to a hot weather flower in a time of the year when we don't have a lot going on in the garden. These will be stunners. This is Butterfly Candy, little grape butterfly bush. And it's a stunner with these beautiful purple blooms. We also have another of the Proven Winners perennial hibiscus looking really good, other than it's getting a little bit of things eating on it from grasshoppers. Oh, I'm kind to most animals, but not grasshoppers. No. So that we've got a little bit of leaf. They're eating on the leaves there, but that's just happened. There's a lot of discussion these days about native plants versus non-native plants and what you should plant and what you shouldn't plant. And I'm like, a garden should make you happy. And I try my best to have a middle of the road balance, as it were, of yes, this area at the front of the house I keep more structured and more formal, but I have other parts of the garden that I leave native and natural, and to welcome all the critters, all the pollinators. So let's take a walk down to the pocket prairies. And a blueberry update. Blueberries are pretty much done. We had a very short season this year, which I found kind of surprising because, we cleaned out a lot of scrubby trees and shrubs. When I say we, I mean himself cleaned out a lot of scrubby trees and things. So I was expecting a really good crop this year, and this particular section in here did really well. It's always been the best section. We have another section down the way that does some, but not nearly as well as this. Blueberry season is pretty much over. There's probably a handful that we can pick for our ceremonial last pick of the season. I don't know if it was, and it could be a combination of things. I don't know if it's because we had a very warm spring Perhaps they needed, I'm not sure if blueberries are something that need a certain amount of cold to make them fruit, like peaches and various things. So I don't know if it was that. Perhaps we need to fertilize, which that's on my agenda for next year. But yeah, we didn't have quite the harvest that we've had. The first year we lived here, we had a huge amount. The second year, it started later and ended a little bit earlier, but we still got a lot. This year started about usual, but we just never had the like yields that we did in that first year. And, you know, weather is part of that. So we will have to do some research on that to see what it was. That's not saying I didn't get plenty of blueberries to eat and some to freeze and some to give away. So just not as many as we have had in past years. If you're familiar with Jane Austen, if we weren't wearing wellies, our petticoat would be 6 inches deep in mud here. This is one of the areas that we keep natural here in the garden. Our pond is over there. This flow is a little creek that flows into the neighbor's pond and then flows on down to a bigger creek over there. And so we keep this area natural. You will often see bunnies and frogs in through here. We do himself does a little bit of mowing here just to keep it from getting too overgrown. And right now, because we've had a big rain, you can hear the water trickling down over the rocks. And so, yeah, it's a lovely little spot. We're waving at himself. He is cleaning up a tree that came down on the neighbor's property, and so he asked if he could clean it up so that we could use the wood for our fire pits. So you're doing the neighbor a solid. You're cleaning up something that they're not able to clean up, and we get some firewood out of the deal. Goodness. That's quite the hike carrying the camera gear. It's a little ways down here. Who says gardening isn't exercise? Just walking out here is exercise. So we are here at the Pocket Prairies. When we moved in, this was just a pasture that they brush hogged from time to time, and it had a lot of wildflowers, and I wanted to do just a winding path through it, and himself was like, no, I want to mow it. I want to see what's there. And so we compromised, and it's been a great compromise. These are what I call pocket prairies. Now, the idea behind a pocket prairie, this is something that I learned about years ago at a Master Gardener conference. I've told this before in a Wildflower Wednesday post. But the idea behind a pocket prairie is that you don't just let the entire space go wild and crazy, is that you pick out a spot and you mow around it so people can tell that you meant what you were doing. Now, in this particular case, himself picked out, when he's mowing, he always notices where the wildflowers are. He picked out the 3 best spots. And so we have a bigger one over there. This is the medium-sized one, and a little small one, a little walkway through. And so he just mows around these continually through the summer. In the fall, once we have a freeze, he will mow it down and let things reseed. That keeps the trees out because we don't need any trees growing in there. And the thing with pocket prairies is they're evolving over the season. So right now there's a lot of white. I think that's a yarrow. Back on the other side, there are some black-eyed Susans. But things just come and go. So it's a fascinating thing to do as far as we drive out here often in the evenings on the golf cart just to see what's blooming in the pocket prairies because it changes every few days. So I'm here on the edge of the biggest pocket prairie, and over there we have the smaller one. But out here, there's various things blooming. There is one last paintbrush I spy in there. The season of paintbrushes are done. But that's the thing about pocket prairies. There's always something new blooming throughout the season. And when it stops raining in the dry of summer, they may like slow down for a little while. But then once the rains pick up in the fall, you will have more things. So pocket prairies. Pocket prairies make me happy. Now, pocket prairies are something that I'm a little bit passionate about. You can tell because I start talking really, really fast and get really excited about it. Either that or I've had way too much caffeine. But I love pocket prairies because they allow you to incorporate native plants, pollinator gardens, that sort of thing, into your garden without, growing a bunch of things up by your front door that to the untrained eye looks like a weedy mess and you just haven't bothered to mow. And the next thing, especially if you're living in a neighborhood, the next thing you know, the neighbors are calling the city and complaining about the fact that you don't mow your property. But you can incorporate a pocket prairie in any size garden. Yes, we have 10 acres and we're doing it on a fairly big scale. There are those who do it bigger than us, but you can also do it on a small scale. You can pick out an area of your garden. Maybe it's 2 feet by 2 feet or 4 by 6, and you designate it your pocket prairie, and you keep it trimmed in and mowed around. I mean, if you want to put a little sign in there that says it's a pocket prairie, great. But for the most part, if people can see that you've done around the edges and taken care of it, they realize it's for a purpose. And as a gardener, it is a great way to maybe educate somebody who's not familiar with that sort of thing, or a new gardener, that, hey, I can have this space that is pollinator friendly, welcomes the native wildlife and the native plants into the garden. And it's a great way to start a conversation about plants in the garden, and a garden should make you happy. We're back to the pond. The pocket prairies are at the far end of the property. The pond's kind of toward the end, but not quite as far. And as I say, we've had a really good blow last night and rain. So our pond is full and it is running into the creek. We were over there a little while ago. So all of this flows down to the neighbor's pond and then into a bigger creek. So yeah, it's really flowing. Himself has been down here mowing in the last few days around the pond. There is a blue wildflower that comes up in the summer and in the water, just like pops out of the water. It's really pretty, and it just looks like a haze of blue when it starts blooming. So that's something to look forward to. But yeah, the pond is full, the water is flowing, it's looking good. The willows look nice, and yeah, the pond is happy. Okay, so some neighbors are driving by on their golf cart, and they're like discreetly trying to look and see what I'm doing, because there's this crazy woman dressed like this, filming out by her pond. Yeah. What is it that Mr. Bennett says about what do we do but live to make sport of our neighbors and make sport of them make sport of us? So that's it for this week's episode of Pemberley, Oklahoma. We have seen the very formal of the garden and the very informal. Next week, we will share the in-between, the back border, the English cottage garden style, also our kitchen gardens, and our new little bed that we've added to, and whatever else we come up with. So check in next week for part 2. In the meantime, check out Flower Friday Picks here on YouTube's community tab of Pemberley, Oklahoma. You can also ask questions. I will try my best to answer. I may not know. Who knows? You can share pictures of things that are blooming that you're just super excited about in your garden. You can also check out the Flower Friday Picks on Pemberley, Oklahoma Instagram. That's where I post kind of things throughout the week, just little random things that are happening in the garden. I usually do a wildflower Wednesday or a wildlife Wednesday, and just random little things happening in the garden. And for me, I am going to enjoy this gorgeous night here in Oklahoma. Oh, so beautiful. Considering that this time yesterday was extremely hot and humid, and to now there's a delightful little breeze and there's no humidity. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, we got a downed tree because of the storm that moved through, but it brought us cool weather, so yeah. Anyhow, that's all for now. I will see you next week, and happy Flower Friday.